You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
You just chunk it down. You just simplify it. Don't get overwhelmed by, I have to write 200 pages or I have to edit 200 pages. No, you don't. You're writing 500 words. You're editing one chapter. If you do that, you've done your job. And if you feel good, keep going.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning! This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, limiting beliefs. You're tapping into unlimiting beliefs. It's funny. It can be two things can be really good at something and have a hole in something else. You be a good homemaker, a good business guy, a good deacon at the church, whatever you're ascribing to be, but still have some areas in your life where you don't feel confident, where you don't feel good about yourself, financial situations, dilemmas, where you don't feel like you can make enough money, you don't. So on one hand, people look at you from the exterior and they'll be like, wow, you got it all together because you deacon, you're good dad, you show up, you're there. But then on the other hand, what they don't see is how you really feel about yourself internally. And when we internalize these things, whether it's something that was said to us, whether it was upbringing, maybe parents got into a fight over the holidays. So every time the holidays come around, you start to relive that, rehearse it in your mind. Maybe you've done some damage that you can't really get over. And these things live with us. And they live within us. And regardless of how we try to internalize or suppress, or give me another good word besides suppress, act as if it never happened, the voice sometimes can get really, really loud. And the voice screams at the most inopportune times. One of my favorite movies, and I'm about to date myself. It's called Fallen. I think it was called Fallen. But the movie starts, and then I'll bring in, I guess. The movie starts, and the guy's sitting in his car. And he's in LA in the middle of traffic, heavy traffic. His air conditioner is not working. It's over 90 degrees outside. They focus in. He has sweat coming down. Gee, a fly gets in the car. He can't catch the fly. And then he just snaps. And he goes on a killing spree. It's like, he fell. Was it the fly? Was it the sun? Was it the air conditioner not working? Why that day? I'm pretty sure that wasn't the first time he set a car with no air. LA is known for traffic. What happened? What broke him? It's these things that we put away and we tuck away and we store. And then one day that voice gets really, really loud. Now, I'm not saying that, he's going to go around and do what that guy did. But sometimes we do things that are not befitting. And sometimes, and if you're listening and you've been in a situation, some things are hard to come back from. But you can come back. Rich, how are you, sir?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on today. Enjoyed your beginning introduction and story.
No, thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind telling our audience who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. My name is Rich Lewis. I have a website called Silence Teaches. It's silenceteaches.com, and it's centered around. Well, it initially started around centering prayer, which is a meditation process, but it's considered prayer as well and deepening a relationship with God. But since then, I've kind of been expanding into really the site is devoted to helping people, break through their limiting beliefs, overcome their fears, um, and take action and kind of live a life of meaning and start and do things that maybe they previously considered impossible. So I talk about practices such as centering prayer, that is visualization, journaling, affirmations that have been really helpful for me in case they can help others connect them to really their true self. I think the person God wants them to be and the person God is waiting for them to be, but for some reason, maybe they're holding themselves back from taking action on this person. So that's a little bit about me and kind of the work that I do over at silenceteaches.com.
So as people have been coming to you, what are some of the most common threads have you been able to track? One, two, and has it, whatever they are, have they risen since? Oh,
Um, I'm sorry, threats since or let me make sure I understand your question. Say your question again.
what are some of the most common themes that you're hearing when people come to you? And has those themes went on the rise since COVID?
Um, I would say maybe COVID reinforced the idea that people realize that they have a lot of fear, they have a lot of anxiety, they need dealing with, and totally we're not. I guess you could say we're in a post-COVID world, but in the COVID world, it forced us to go within and live with ourselves because a lot of it we were isolated and couldn't go anywhere and things had shut down and obviously we're talking a couple of years back, so you were forced to go within
Mhm.
and deal how I deal with the anxiety and the worry and the fears, and so for some people it became very difficult. So some of these practices such as meditation, centering prayer, visualizations can help with this process. So I think COVID made people realize I'm not okay, and I'm very anxious, and I don't want this to be my normal everyday life and everyday experience. And even for that matter, even post COVID, I think a lot of people, including myself, sometimes we walk around and we don't realize the normal that we're walking around. It doesn't need to be our normal. We don't need to feel this anxiety, whether it's in our bodies or mentally. We take it as normal, and it doesn't have to be our normal state, and we need to allow ourselves to free ourselves from stress we hold in our bodies and stress we hold mentally and emotionally.
How did you how did you know that this was the business for you? What was happening, and actually get into um, this unique business. uh, but how did you know that this is for you?
Sure. Well, I guess it started with my discovery of centering prayer. So this was back in 2013, late 2013, I discovered centering prayer. So prior to that, I knew something in my life was missing. I felt that I was just touching the surface of my relationship with God and prayer, and that there was just something missing. There was no depth to it. So I was just kind of searching, exploring for
Mhm.
what am I missing. So in late 2013, I was perusing Amazon looking for a book to read, and I came across a book called Healing the Divide, Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots by a gentleman by the name of Amos Smith. So I began reading the Kindle version of his book. And in his book, he talked about a practice called centering prayer that he had been doing for about 20 years. And that immediately
Mm.
intrigued me because I thought, maybe this will help me. I think this is the piece that's missing for me with my depth of prayer life and my depth of relationship with God. So it started with discovering centering prayer and then beginning to practice centering prayer. And then I actually reached out to him because he had written that book and he was in the middle of writing his second book. And I emailed him and we began a back and forth dialogue. And
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
we became friends. And actually, to this day, we talk about once a month. He's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, but we talk once a month. Initially I began helping him with his website, and then he mentored me. He actually said, "You need to write a book." I thought he initially was crazy, but I took him up on it, and he kind of served as a really neat mentor for my first book that I published, which came out in August of 2020. So I guess I discovered it because I knew something was missing. It uh, showed up on Amazon in Amos Smith's book, and then we became friends. And then a few years later, I created my own site, silenceteaches.com, and I kind of let it naturally evolve. Initially, it was just centering prayer, a weekly meditation. And then I said, maybe I can help people. So I added a coaching page, and lo and behold, some people began contacting me, and I added a speaking page, and I got asked to do some talks at churches. And then obviously when my book came out, I added the book page. Um, so I just kind of let it evolve. But I guess it all started because I found a practice in his book that was kind of the missing piece for me. And then really within the last year, I've added the other practices that have helped me in case they can help others that I mentioned, such as visualization and journaling and affirmations, along with my centering prayer practice to help. They've helped me and they might be able to help other people. So I like to share them.
I like the fact that, like you're not saying this is it. Most coaches, they're like, "Oh, you do this, it's gonna," but everything is not for everyone.
Right.
How do you keep that open mind? How do you navigate through that? Because it did work for you. So one thing is, well, it worked for me. It should work for you, but you're not coming across that way.
No, in fact,
Tell us about your personality.
No, and in fact, I've had some coaching clients where they've tried centering prayer and it doesn't work. And then I've kind of pointed them to different practices. There was one coaching client I had, they needed more of a mantra. Like centering prayer doesn't use a mantra
Or
in when you do the practice. They needed something where they were repeating something internally in their mind. So I pointed them to a practice called Christian meditation. and they found that more helpful. So no, I simply like to listen to people, and I encourage people to find the practice or practices that will really best help them and that seem to best resonate with them. So they did find a meditation practice that just was different than centering prayer when I was listening to them and realizing that centering prayer isn't going to work for them, but maybe this practice will. So no, and I think you need to listen to people and then help them find practices that resonate with them and make sense for them.
So one might say that because what you're doing is has some kind of religious connotation, can have some type of religious connotation. Um, like, how can you be a coach teaching this stuff as outside of the church, or how can you do this as a business? What would you say to that?
Well, one, I guess I would say with any of these practices, I come as you are wherever you're at, and sit with whatever you wanna
Mm,
call, if you wanna call it, "I'm sitting with the universe," because 'cause you're not comfortable calling it God, or you wanna call it a higher
mm,
power. I just tell people, show up as you are and just let things evolve. Don't judge the practice. Don't worry about how
mm,
you feel. Anybody can try these practices and see how they work. So they're not like and the neat thing about centering prayer, contemplative outreach is really kind of the main organization for centering prayer, and that's kind of their treatment is come as you are, whatever your background is. It's not for a certain religion, or it's not for a certain type of religion. It's not just for Catholics or Protestants. It's really anybody can come as they are to a meditative practice. And they also actually encourage a lot of talk amongst people of other religions, because the other religions have their belief in God, and they also have their own meditative practices. So they talk, and there's a lot of dialogue, interfaith dialogue was the term I'm looking for.
yeah, I'm a part of a contemplative alliance set here in New York, and we have like scientists and uh, um, people from Muslim, people from all types of, and to be in that eclectic room and sharing ideas um, has really been eye opening for me, from someone who came up in a Pentecostal church, who it's heavily centered around heavy religious dialogue, to be able to have the open mind to have those conversations and to see the similarities of conversation, of thought, of ideologies, where we always want to holler loudly at the differences, and some of the differences can cause separation. But I like to harmonize with the similarities, because people are hurting, and you have an opportunity to be in a business where you're helping hurting people. How does that make you? How does that resonate with you, that you can actually make a living helping people overcome limiting beliefs?
No, I mean, I think if you can help someone, and someone wants your help and is willing to pay for it, I think that's okay. And I have coaches. I have a spiritual director that I see once a month, and it's been very helpful. And I've put myself in various paid programs as well, because I can either try to do it myself by reading a lot books and watching things, and it may take me a whole lot longer, or I may never be able to do it. So no, I encourage. I have coaches, and I've gone through different programs, and it's helped me, and it's speeded up the process, or it exposed me to things that maybe I never would have been exposed to. So I think people should be open to the idea of a coach, or paid, whether it's group coaching or a program that's 1 month or 2 months, and you're joining it with other people. You're learning from somebody that's many steps ahead of you, and you could probably learn a lot from it and speed up your process rather than trying to do it by yourself. And I think when
When
you
we
make an
say the
investment
word,
in yourself, and the last thing I'll say, I'm sorry to interrupt, was that
no, no,
when you
no,
make an investment in yourself, then you take it more seriously too. Like when something's free,
no,
you might casually do it. But if I paid for something, I'm in it 110% when I have my monthly sessions. I'm paying for them, and I'm there, and I'm in it, and a lot of these other things that I've done in the past, I'm 100% committed to it because I've paid for it. So I'm free. I might be a little more casual, nonchalant about it.
yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's because it has value to
Right,
you,
right.
and you're committing, and unfortunately, we live in a society where we value money, which somebody can just go and hit a start button and start printing, but we value that in currency, right? And that shows a level of commitment. It shows a level of connectivity, and it shows a level of want to. When I'm saying that I want to do something, and I'm holding on to my wallet, that shows that I really I'm not willing to invest. And the word return on investment, and that's what you're talking about. What type of return are you getting on your investment? When you say limiting beliefs, what is describe to our audience, what does that mean to you, or and to your team and the people that you coach?
Sure, there might be things you wanna do, or I can even use myself as an example where, I
Mhm.
have a published book now, and I'm writing my second book with the publisher, but prior to that,
Go ahead.
I had a
Okay.
limiting belief that am I an author? Can I do this? Can I actually write a book that's 2 or 300
Mm.
pages? So you might have a limiting belief that I can't write. I'm not an author, I can't write. I've never written and I had never written a book before, so I had a limiting belief of that, which I no longer have. Or before I
Mhm.
was a coach, I knew I wanted to help people, but I had limiting beliefs that were maybe imposter syndrome, where I can't help anybody. What can I offer? How can I help them?
Mm.
And I just kind of put up the extra a page on my website, offering my coaching services and what the types of things that I might be able to help people with. And lo and behold, I got contacted. And then I broke through those limiting beliefs. So really, it was action. Action spurs. So I had a limiting belief I could coach. I had a limiting belief I could be an author. I was scared to death of speaking, so going on podcasts or going speaking in front of people, whether live or on Zoom, whether a small or large audience, scared the heck out of me. Those were all limiting beliefs that were just things I was
Mm.
telling my fears and worries and anxieties that really weren't true. But as I took action, I realized they're no longer true.
And it's amazing. It's the same mind, right? And this is what I always tell the same mind I say I can't do something, I can't get over this hurdle, I can't get off these 5 extra pounds. Is the same mind when you cultivate it that says, heck with it, I can do it.
Right.
But the other voice is still there. How do you help people to carve that relationship between the two voices to amplify the positive voice and to quiet the I can't, the limiting belief
Sure.
voice?
One I guess is a lot of these practices such as meditation or centering prayer or journaling help you create an awareness that I have these thoughts. So you can one, I guess at least create the
Mm.
awareness that you have these thoughts. And then 2, you can replace them. So with an affirmation, you can replace it with instead of, "I'm scared to death of doing public speaking," "I'm so happy and grateful that, I enjoy public speaking." And you can kind of say that to yourself and visualize it and visualize yourself doing a public talk where you can visualize yourself, "I'm scared I am not an author." You can visualize that I've just written 100 words or 500 words of my next book. And you need to take the action too. But I guess you can one, become aware of the thoughts, and then two, replace them with affirmations that are really the opposite and stated in the present tense of, I am so happy and grateful now that whatever that is, and then kind of recite them to yourself and close your eyes and interiorly feel them and feel the emotion of having accomplished it, and how would you feel? But then you do need to take action. Some of these are just small actions, like what today can I do? So if you want to write a book, you can write 500 words perhaps. And then you've started. And then if you write 500 the next day, you have 1,000. And as you keep writing 500 words, it turns into a book, or at least a first draft of a book. And the same thing with, yeah, I want to be a coach. And you have skill sets to help people. Maybe it's just creating a website with putting something out there that you have coaching, and then on social media, sharing valuable posts of that people could read, and they could read it and say, that makes sense. And maybe they'll realize, I think this guy can help me with, he's saying things that resonate with me. They're helpful. They make sense. Maybe I'll reach out to him. He might be able to help me, or she might be able to help me.
It's funny, talking about affirmations and I ams and all of those. So in my wallet, keep my affirmation. And on each side, as I open it up, it has another affirmation from there. So this is funny because it can be a bit scary, right? So one of my top, I am the host of a podcast production company that ranks with the 1% of podcasters. I produce these podcasts throughout our company. So I've been doing these affirmations, and then one day my podcast ballooned.
Wow.
To 1,500% increase in listenership. And I'm looking, I'm like, what happened? This is no BS. So I said, well, what happened? I wonder how, like, what? I didn't pay for advertising. I didn't do anything like that, because I did that when I started, and I said I purposefully want to get better at the SEO, get better at doing the other things, hosting, producing podcasts every day, and find out the audience that I build. I'll get that to advertising and stuff like that. But I want to know that the people that are listening are really, that I know where they're coming from. The next day I woke up and it happened again. And shut the front door. And you can be limiting and unlimiting at the same time. So I had to really check my self-talk and say, hey, man, you wrote this down. You affirmed it. You called it out. Why are you surprised that it's happening? You froze there a little bit, Rich. You hear? What?
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hello, Richard. Yeah, so it happened, and I want to say to you all who are listening that these things are real. If you write these things down, and and I rehearse my I ams every day, at least two times a day. So one thing is, you want your I ams to be active, speaking in the active person. The subconscious mind doesn't really know how to differentiate with negative verbs. So you don't want to say, I am not, because when you put the negative not, it says, I'm not overweight. Or the only remove the not and say, and your subconscious will hear, I am overweight, and then it'll give it to you. So you want to remove negative words and you want to use active words. You want to use active words, future, present tenses, as if you have already accomplished it. So, um, so like one of my affirmations, I am actively teaching full in-person classes in New York City, online training for individuals, small groups, CEOs, and looking to grow, and people looking to grow their brands and transform their lives. So these active words, hyper active words, will help you transform your life. We lost, oh, he's back. Will help you transform your life and give you room to grow. So when you use negative words or low grade words, even if you're affirming it, there's no room for growth there. So you want to use active words, futuristic words, seeing yourself in it words, even if you think that what you're affirming may be too lofty to grab hold of. Don't worry about thinking too highly of yourself. Don't think so low of yourself. When we talk about Rich, about thinking, how one should approach thinking about themselves, like you with the book, let's use that as an example. You said, I don't see myself as an author, right? What were some of the things that helped you to change that self-doubt, to change that self-talk, and to actively see yourself as an author, not just being an author, a successful author who now is writing a second book?
I guess initially, first I needed to just write one chapter. Like when he challenged me to write a book, in my mind, first I spoke to my wife and said, what do you think of that?" And she said, I'm all for it." My wife's an entrepreneur herself, so she said, "One, I'm all for it." So I said, "Okay," because I didn't wanna take time away from the family. I had the kids were a little bit younger. So I decided to write the book on Sat so I first thought about when can I write it. So I disciplined myself and actually wrote it mostly on Saturday mornings from like 6 AM to 9, 10 AM at the local Starbucks. So I guess the first thing I did was decide I'm gonna have to discipline myself. I'm gonna have to go somewhere, and I'm gonna have to kind of, not make myself do it, 'cause you wanna kind of be relaxed and let things flow, but I just kind of disciplined myself, so I actually and then it turned out to be fun. I enjoyed it. The alarm would go off on Saturday morning. I would just put on a baseball cap, drive to the Starbucks 5 minutes away, buy a cup of coffee, and then I started the writing process. And initially, I gave him 1 chapter. He initially he talked to me and he said, first, I didn't have any idea how to attack a book. So I guess it was helpful to have a mentor. I mean, that helped. And he said, "Write down your thoughts on centering prayer and how it has helped you." So I did that, and I had about 13 or 14 thoughts, and then he said, "There's your chapters, go write." And I thought, "Well, that just sounds simple for you." But so I picked one of the thoughts, and I don't even remember which one it was at this time, and I decided I'm gonna write 1 chapter, take a week or 2, then I'll send it to him, and he's gonna tell me this stinks, and then I won't have to worry about this. And lo and behold, he came back with, "I really enjoyed it. It was fresh. You need to keep going." And then that encouraged me. I thought, "Wow, maybe I should." So that's when I decided I'm gonna discipline myself. I'm gonna do it on Saturdays, and I'm gonna try to write for a couple hours every Saturday. And that's how I wrote my first book. My second book, I had no desire to get up at 5:30 on Saturday mornings. It just Rich Lewis 4 years later doesn't wanna do it. So I wrote it in 500 to 1,000 word chunks. So that's how the draft of the current book I'm writing on, I wrote it 500 to 1,000 words at a time, and now I'm in edit mode, And I'm taking kind of a same process. I'm editing the book 1 to 2 chapters at a time. If I edit it and I don't feel like I wanna edit anymore, I'm done. If I feel good, I move on and do a second chapter, so I've been going through the book, kind of I'm on my 5th round of edits, but I've been so that's you do it in chunks. You make it easy. You don't make it overwhelming because, my first book was about 290 pages, which shocked me when I realized, "My god, I wrote that much." And the second book is a little bit shorter, but it's still, I think it's closer to 40,000 words. The first book was 50,000 words. So it's still a lot of words that I wrote 500 to 1,000 at a time. And now I'm just editing it 1 to 2 chapters each time I sit down to edit it. So you just chunk it down. You just simplify it. Don't get overwhelmed by I have to write 200 pages or I have to edit 200 pages. No, you don't. You're writing 500 words. You're editing 1 chapter. If you do that, you've done your job. And if you feel good, keep going. But if you're like, my mind's not in it, I don't feel it, well, then stop and do it again the next day.
Do you see a difference from when you first? I know your life transformed, but when you first was writing and now, and as you're reading the book that you're currently writing, can you feel a difference in your confidence in the words that you're writing out as opposed to when you wrote the first book?
Yeah, I guess I just try to let go and make it effortless, and I know
Well,
you just kinda have to let it like, in the editing process, what I do is before I edit, I speak out loud, I talk to God, I say, "I love you, I trust you, I surrender to you, edit and write through me," and then I set my timer on my watch for 1 minute, and I do 1 minute silent sit, and then when it goes off, I edit. So I try to just let go and make it effortless, and I think of it as I'm partnering with God when I write the book. I'm partnering with God when I edit the book, and it seems to be working for me because I'm letting go and kind of letting the spirit within edit and write, and I'm not doing it alone.
so as of now, you have the second book coming out. You're coaching. You're doing a wonderful thing, but now you're also going out and speaking and doing podcasts. Why do you think that that was important for you to add that to your repertoire as you continue to build and help people transform and build their life?
Yeah, I mean, podcasts are a great way just to share the book, obviously, but share the practice and share how they've helped me in case they can help others. So I have a great opportunity to reach, a big audience. I've been on. I use obviously we both connected through Podmatch, and I've been on it for now I don't know 2 or 3 years easily at this point. So I think of it as I've been on about 123 podcasts and I have 123 touch points out there. Probably more than that because the podcasts, some of them are on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, they're all over the place. So every time I do something like this, it's another 1 to 2 or 3 touch points out on the internet. And it's kind of fun. I'll Google my name and the name of the book or my name and centering prayer and see where I come up, and that's been a whole lot of fun. So I think the more I do this, the more somebody might read it, and it might help them, quite frankly. So I love doing the podcast. I love meeting the hosts, and I love getting the word out in case it might help someone. And every once in a while, I'll get an email from someone that thanks me. Or when the book first came out, I actually and I got an email, and this was a whole lot of fun. I got an email from a monk in the Netherlands who in a monastery that had bought my book on Amazon
Wow.
Germany. He emailed me and he wanted to talk. So we had a Zoom phone call and we had a great discussion. And he talked about how he found centering prayer, how he found my book, and he said, "I just wanted to talk to you." And he was I'm 50 at the time, I guess I was about 55, and he was about half my age. But that was just you just never know. Somebody finds your work, listens to you, reads your book, and just feels compelled to reach out. And I said, I'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call. So I was on a Zoom call with a monk who lived in a monastery in the Netherlands, and that was just fun.
Yeah, and when you have When your kids get older, how old are your kids now?
They are 16, 24, 27. I still call them kids, but
So then you can tell the 16-year-old when they think that you're not hip, hey, Google my name. Or the grandchildren, when eventually you might have some grandchildren and
you're
they'll
right.
say, hey, Papa,
Right.
yeah, Google my name, man.
They'll find me on the internet probably with either, the different podcasts and I do some book signings. I have a book in a local store near us. So they might see like the advertisement in the newspaper. You're right. I could remind people, just Google me if you miss me. You'll find me about 150 to 200 places if you scroll through.
Well, thank you so much for today, man. This has been a blessing and a joy, and I really appreciate what it is that you are doing and how you're presenting and showing up to the world, because we need more brothers that will not just lead by their faith, the context of a small closed religious setting, right? But they will lead by their faith and take the work to the world, because I believe that's what we should be doing, and be able to spread the love and the joy that we have consumed and share with others. My last question for you is, what books have impacted you, could be fiction and nonfiction, that you would recommend to others that they should read?
Well, I guess that I'll recommend two centering prayer books because they were the first two books I read when I began this practice, and I've continued to read them multiple times. So, Open Heart, Open Mind by Thomas Keating, and Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening by Cynthia Bourgeot. Were the two first books I read on centering prayer, and I kind of keep going back to them and rereading them because every time I read them, I find something in it that I missed on the previous read. So those are two books that I recommend only because I keep going back to them.
Well, there you have it, everybody. All of Rich's information, the website, the coaching, the book, everything is in the description. If you're listening now, right under the title is his website. Click that website, go purchase the book on Amazon. Go and share his message, or if you need that clarity call with him to find out how you can actually implement this stuff in your life and help you go to the next level, go and do that, and eventually hire him as a coach, because that's what we're here for, to make sure that you are better and that you're living way above what you can imagine yourself at right now. Uh, Not only that, we don't actually for Cash App, Zells, Apple Pays, and none of that stuff. But what we do ask is that you hit like and subscribe, your subscriptions, your 5-star ratings on the platforms that allow you to give those ratings. Help us to get the word out. As I said, the podcast is growing in leaps and bounds, and it's all because of you, because you have followed these instructions well. You can go to our website, walkinvictory.me. On the website, Richard has a landing page. All of his social handles are there. You can go to follow him. Every day he gives us encouragement, and we want to be encouraged. We want to be in the ecosystem of good, positive, creative energy that exudes from all of our guests. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't walk making excuses. Don't walk thinking that your limiting beliefs will guide you. Make that voice mute. You can do anything that you want to do, but most of all, you can walk in victory. Richard is now a part of the Walk in Victory family. And until the next episode, peace. Thanks so much, bro.
No, thanks. And I know at one point, I guess we lost connection. I had to log back in. So I guess, did you see that I was gone for about a minute? Something. So I figured then when I came back in, you were talking. I figured you probably saw that and kept talking. I'll just wait until you tell me to talk. Okay. I have to hang on and let it do whatever it needs to do on your side. That's fine. No, this was a whole lot of fun. I am currently living in Waxhaw, North Carolina. So it's just a little bit south of Charlotte. I'm almost in South Carolina. We're very close to South Carolina. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, okay. Whereabouts in New York? Okay. Oh, okay. 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 So you're probably about 12, 13 hours north of me. Car drive. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, depending on where where if you live more rural, and even where we just moved here about in January of 2023. I used to live just north of Philadelphia, so we just moved. But you're right, like it's a little bit more rural here, so it is like some of the roads when I'm if I'm going through the local town, it's rural and there's no lights and it's dark. Mm. Right. That's funny. Mm. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Right. Yeah. The fact you get it, yeah. That's funny. Or let me know. I wanna make sure it downloads for you, and I've had other people with whatever systems they use, we wait because I don't want you to have it not download, so no, I can wait. I can wait. No, no, I have one next Friday, but I had nothing else today. Okay. Are you trying to get are you trying to do the on Podmatch? You hit the top 10 for I guess there's one for host, there's one for guests. When I first went on, I hit it a couple times for guests. Now I don't. Yeah, but in why I had was doing a lot because of my book had come out, but now um, I decide just to try to do maybe 1 to 2 a month, eh, and not burn myself out. Okay. No, that makes yeah. That would be a lot. I mean, just doing and I'm toying with the idea of maybe next year at some point having after my book is done and out, I'm toying around in my mind with the idea of a podcast because I think I can have solo episodes and I can have guests because and I've done a few YouTube interviews and stuck them on YouTube just to see if I liked it. So I'm finding I like it. So I think there's a podcast in me in the future is what I'm saying. I just have to make sure I budget the time for it and do it well. Right, right. And that's what I wanna make sure and maybe it would be 1 or 2 a month, and something like that, because I still have I have a regular full-time job, and I work remotely from home, so that's the nice part. My full-time job is remote, which so I like when we get off, I'm gonna go to my remote job, um, and, it's the same desk I'm sitting at now, but that helps. My job is remote. Right, right. Um, on my side, it doesn't say anything. It just is it supposed to tell me it's being recorded? It's actually just it just shows it's recording 46 minutes, 25, 26. So it shows that it's is that just because 'cause we're talking? Okay, okay. That's fine, and then I'll make sure I share it with my community, and I put it on, social media, and I put it on LinkedIn, and hopefully bring more people your way. Alright, take care.